Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to talk about another cult film, sci-fi cult film from the 70s. That would be A Boy and His Dog from 1975. You can kind of see the poster a little bit there. This film was based on a novella by Harlan Ellison. Harlan Ellison, who was a key figure in science fiction, speculative fiction, as he preferred to call it, in the 1960s and really through the 2000s. He was known for his contrarian personality, his outspokenness that sometimes got him into trouble, more often than not. But he was nevertheless a important figure in modern science fiction. So, A Boy and His Dog, the tagline is, "The year is 2024, a future you'll probably live to see." So this film is set in the far distant future of 2024. And in this world, there's been a number of wars, including nuclear wars. And from what we know, the Earth has become a deadly landscape, a pretty barren landscape, as we follow a group of scavengers who are trying to survive living in the desert after these wars. We also learn, though, that there are also people living underground much more comfortably. So we do have that dichotomy happening in the movie. But our main character is Vic, played by Don Johnson, young Don Johnson, who would, of course, later go on to be famous from Miami Vice and would be in many films as well. Young Vic is like 18 years old. He is with this group of scavengers. He has his own dog he can talk to, have conversations with, called Blood, who is voiced by Tim McIntyre, another favorite character actor of mine from the era. And Vic's primary occupation, besides survival, is finding a girl. That seems to be the one thing on his mind. And eventually he does find Quilla, who leads him into the underground world, okay? And that's really what the movie's about. This movie, and I think I've mentioned this in previous videos, 70s sci-fi gets a lot of satire comes in, especially in the middle part of the decade, where the early part of the decade was more despairing dystopias and things like that, whereas this movie has a sense of humor, a very grim sense of humor running through it, but that's one thing that distinguishes it from some other films of the era. So once they are led into this underground world where people have been living for many, many decades, and here we have like this, they've created like this fake Americana. A lot of it based on like the Wizard of Oz, the Kansas of the Wizard of Oz, like this idyllic idea of Americana, of a farming society that is very structured, very regimented. Everyone seems happy for the most part. But yet there's also some big problems with the society. Like, they don't struggle for food or anything, but there's some things about their social structure that is quite wrong. And one thing that we learn is that the men are sterile. They're unable to have children. So they need to get men who live above ground and use them to impregnate the women. So that's, and it's far more sinister than, not to reveal too much, but the film shows how sinister this society is. And like I said, a lot of dark humor, a lot of satire in this film. And I did like that idea of trying to recreate this Americana thing. It would be like today if people only watch TV shows from the 50s, like Leave It to Beaver and things like that, and then thinking like, okay, that's what the 1950s were like, and let's try to build a society based on that. Of course, that's very much an illusion. That's not at all what the 50s were like. And that's kind of what they're doing in this movie, where they're trying to create a society based on illusions. So I liked that idea of it. And I should say I've not read the book, the novella by Ellison, but yeah, someday I'd like to. There's also that dichotomy in the film of the, almost going back to the time machine idea, where you have the beastly people who live in the time machine. They live underground, but here they live above ground, and the civilized people, quote unquote, live underground. We also get a sense of just how grim life is, like an example of the dark humor in the movie, where when we're with the scavengers, they spend their off time watching old porno movies, on film, and that's basically their only entertainment. So that's kind of gives you an idea for the flavor of the humor in this film. The style of the film is Mad Max. Especially the desert scenes will definitely conjure images of what Mad Max would do, especially the idea of scavenger societies, fighting and raiding each other. That's definitely here in the film. Also, spaghetti westerns also, I think, have an influence on the film as well, where the cinematography is quite good. So yeah, and the scenes, the best scene, probably the dog is the best character, and that's a highlight of the film. And yeah, and the film ends, I should say, on a very grim joke. Depending on your sense of humor, how you react to it might tell you, give some idea about yourself and how far you'll take your own sense of humor. But yeah, Boy and His Dog, kind of it's offbeat movie, dystopian movie with a lot of satire, some social commentary, and kind of a twisted sense of humor at times. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.